Hey you guys, Funky Like Feathers here, and today we're going to be reviewing The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. So what are your feelings on graveyards? Do you like them? Do they creep you out? Let me know down in the comments. I want to hear from you guys. What are you doing back there? Let's talk about The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. So Neil Gaiman has been getting a lot of traction lately. He's got a lot of really awesome books out there that especially have been turned into movies and TV shows and everything. I went ahead and read The Graveyard Book. This is pretty much for, I would say middle grade is kind of where this falls into place. So it's marketed towards kind of 10 to 16, anywhere in between there. That's kind of your age bracket here. Now the format of the book, I have obviously, there are a couple of different covers out there. I have the one with two of the main characters on the cover. This is Silas, this is the kid named Bod, and just go with it. And then on the back, it has the lady in gray. It is about an inch in thickness, so not a bad structure for a book. It has paper that also still has the flap, so instead of getting the blurb on the back, you're going to get it in the inside cover. Now as far as my format goes, there are only illustrations at the beginning of each chapter, so you have really cool illustrations at the beginning. Other than that, those are the only illustrations that you're going to get in this version of the book. The other version that has a dark blue with a broken headstone, I believe it is, that one's going to have a few more illustrations kind of sprinkled in, but it doesn't take away from the story. I will let you know that. Now, the main plot of this book is that a kid named Bod lives in a cemetery with his ghost friends, as well as a guardian named Silas, who is able to get off of the graveyard in order to like buy food and stuff. These are kind of some of the adventures that Bod goes on throughout his life growing up in the cemetery. This actually functions more as short stories that come together into one overall story, as opposed to an ongoing narrative. So each chapter that you get to is going to be another little short story about something that happened at that point in his life. So don't expect everything to go, just easy in one linear movement. You're actually going to have timed skips as you go from chapter to chapter. Most of the story is structured the same as far as writing style goes. However, the second to last chapter is the longest chapter in the book, and it kind of stands out for a weird reason. It is a lot slower than the rest of the book, which is ironic because there's a lot of action that happens in this chapter. There are chasing scenes, there is so much action packed into there, it's awesome. However, the writing style is very different than the rest of the story, which I found kind of strange. Spoiler alert, there is also another chapter where there is an interaction with Bod and the lady in gray, and there's like this big event that takes place. I'm trying to stay as non-spoilery as possible. Anyway, this big event occurs, however, the memory of that event is actually taken from Bod. So this kind of makes me question why that chapter was included if it doesn't actually change Bod's character in any way. If it has no lasting impression, that's kind of where my question comes in, because usually everything that's included in a story has to make some kind of impact on the character. And since that memory was taken from Bod, kind of erased, I'm not sure why that chapter was included, just because it doesn't really move the character anywhere. It doesn't change him in any way. So that kind of makes me wonder why necessarily it was included. Overall, it was a pretty good story. Like I said, the beginning of the book is vastly different than the end of the book. If you really kind of pay attention, there are certain things that you'll start to notice throughout the story. You'll kind of be able to put the plot together if you're one of those people who likes to figure out puzzles. So there's little things like that. The premise here is pretty much that a toddler is in his home when his family is murdered in their beds. It's a kid's book. But this one little boy who was all the way upstairs in the family's home, he's able to actually make it out of the house before anything happens to him. He makes it to the cemetery before this guy gets to him. Now, if you read the introduction in this story, the introduction is written by Margaret Atwood, who wrote The Handmaid's Tale. By reading the introduction, you actually kind of get a little bit of information about the story that I think does help, because when you're reading the introduction, you find out that the man Jack, he's actually one of the Jacks of all trades. Get it? So there's like Jack Be Nimble, there's Jack Frost, things like that. They're all the Jacks. The man Jack is actually referred to as the man Jack throughout the entire story. I don't know if he was just trying to get some extra word count like Terry Pratchett did in the Tiffany Aching series. I don't know if that was just fluffing, but overall the story is there. There's a really fun storyline here. You get to follow Bod because he comes and they don't know his name. They end up calling him Nobody, and Bod is short for nobody. It's an endearing story because you get to kind of watch Bod grow up throughout the story. The issue is, again, that he lives in the cemetery, so he doesn't leave. He pretty much converses with ghosts. So you get to meet several of these different ghosts in the graveyard. You get to see what his interactions are like with them. You get to meet some other mythical creatures along the way. Gaiman did a really great job at just kind of giving you certain details of characters along the way so that you have to piece together what kind of character this is. Because of course, dealing with a kid who lives in a cemetery and there's a bunch of ghosts there, you mostly assume that everybody's just kind of human. But as you read the book, you start to find out that there are some people in the cemetery that are not exactly human. If you don't like stuff that jumps through time, this would not be the book for you. My rating for this book was only 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, mainly because of how the time jumps happened. I'm not a big fan of time jumps that are so vast. And then also that writing style that we got in the second to last chapter that just didn't fit the rest of the book. And then the chapter that actually had no lasting impression on Bod. Those were the primary things that influenced my lower rating for this book. However, overall, it is a good story. If you want to check it out, you can definitely get it on Amazon. Obviously, there are, like I said, different cover options. However, the illustrations are going to be different depending on which edition that you get. I hope you guys are enjoying reading. Let me know what you are reading down in the comments below. I would love to hear from you guys, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye, you guys.